Hi, I'm Linda Sheltlane. Thank you for coming my way today. We have some really, really important things to talk about. The blood and the righteousness. Let's talk about the blood first. Do you know that in the Bible, blood always had a voice? Genesis 4:10. And he, God, said, "What hast thou done?" And he's talking to Cain. "The voice of thy brother's blood crieth to me from the ground." Well, Abel's blood communicated a word-based thought. Blood. Who knew, right? We were told not to drink animal blood. It had a voice. Don't drink blood at all. Jews work hard to remove excess blood from the meat that they eat. Dr. Livingston and Mr. Stanley brought up a whole new area as well, blood covenants. It's powerful. E.W. Kenyon mentioned it. He wrote that they had never heard of anything that would break a blood covenant. The scar from the cuts indicated the covenant bonding was kept as a sign forever. I began to study the blood after I first saw Jesus. It was September. He was dressed fully in white. It was the first time I ever saw him just physically there, completely there. And you could touch him. And he reached out and he grabbed my hands and he held my hands. And I looked at his forehead and I could see the scars from the crown of thorns. And as he held my hands, I could see the scars that he had on the cross, that he won for us. My dad had gotten a nail into his foot, that went through his shoe, but it didn't look the same. The area that the nail went into hadn't stretched with the weight of his body. His scars seemed so raw, so fresh. And I wanted to look away, but I felt so much love coming off of him, waves of love. If it's hard to breathe, when you're in that love, you can breathe. And the way his eyes just look at you, it's like looking into the past, the present, the future, and his compassion. Wow. What people experienced as he came into their towns and he just felt that compassion for them. It's so awesome, right? That love, that compassion. What Jesus went beyond a promise. He took the power of the blood and he built that into a blood covenant for us. Historically, a blood covenant gave both parties access to what the other person had. The blood covenant, it shows your rights and what you can count on. And so the more that we know, the more we have to really rejoice over. So, I've been doing this Names of God series, and honestly, I have pretty much thousands more to go. But when we talk the names of God, we're talking covenant. Jesus set up what we get, and because what he has, we get as joint heirs. So what does the blood do? Well, first, the blood sets the foundation. Our sins are forgiven. Colossians 1:14, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins. Sins remembered no more. Years ago, I had different people in my life, and this one girl, she told me, she says, okay, I was the team slut, team whore, and I'm in a relationship where that's being very much used against me. And I'm just condemned every time I turn around. Is there any hope that this is ever going to go away? And she just felt so depressed and so hopeless. And here she's living a clean lifestyle now, but she was with a very, very condemnatory husband. And it brought up the, Acts 7. Here's Paul, and he's standing by as Stephen's being martyred. Paul, he hauled people out, threw them in jail. That those people were probably going to die. And the thing is that the guilt that was on him was massively there. And yet we have in Acts 20, verse 26, therefore I testify to you this day that I am innocent of the blood of all men. I mean, how can Paul say that? How could this girl say that she's innocent of her heritage of sin? And the answer, of course, is the blood. And what's so beautiful about the blood, what allowed Paul that freedom to be able to say, I am completely innocent. You know, this is not a subject that no one can relate to, right? Because Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. But when you have Colossians 1:14, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins. And you know what? This is the reason Paul was able to say, I am completely innocent. We don't even have to think about the heritage that I ever had. This girl didn't have to think about her heritage of being everyone's, person, woman, whatever. Isaiah 43:25. I, even I, am he that blotteth out thy transgressions for mine own sake, and will not remember thy sins. Isn't that just the most beautiful thing on the planet? I had somebody more recently who came out of a troubled background, and I shared this with them, and you could just hear them crying on the other end. And you know what? How cool is that? That we are completely innocent. It's such an awesome experience to be able to say, I can start fresh. And I have, the forgiveness, and I have the understanding of a better way of doing things, this process of love that the Father has. Obviously, blood comes from like the Passover, and they would paint blood onto the walls and of the doorway, and there wasn't, the angel would pass by and didn't kill their firstborn. We also have Rahab, the whore, who was saved. And for her, think about this, she helps these guys. She says, how, will you save us? She knows that the city of Jericho is gone, it's toast. And so they put a red cord up in the window. And this cord is a symbol. It's red, but it's a symbol. And yet when the city of Jericho went down, here was this cord. Here was her house. Here was everyone that was under the roof with her. Here's all her possessions. She was given a brand new start. And the commentaries say she ended up marrying Joshua. So that was kind of cool too, huh? She must have been a very amazing woman just to take and reach out and say, I'm going to take this for my household, and we're going to give us all a new start. So these are two ways that the blood has been historically used. Christ obviously handles sin once with his blood sacrifice. Historically, the high priest, Hebrews 9:2 says, moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and the vessels of the ministry. Verse 25 says, the high priest entered into the holy place every year with blood of others. And then verse 26, now once hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. Jesus' death on the cross once nets us this restart in life, forgiveness of sins. Romans 3:25, whom God set forth as a propitiation by his blood through faith to demonstrate his righteousness, because in his forbearance God had passed over the sins that were previously committed. So we are joint heirs with Christ. We get what he has. The names of God, which is what I kept getting off of it, is really descriptions of what Jesus won us on the cross. And so I have a lot more fun descriptions to share concerning the names of God. And in our next portion of the series, I want to talk about Jesus, our righteousness. Thank you for coming my way today, and you have a great day.